Okay, well, thank you everyone for joining us. Welcome to our March Town Hall. I'm Carola Pareja, the LATAM and Americas Partnership Lead here at TURN. And I just wanted to point out quickly again that we've moved to a meeting format in order to allow for a more interactive space for you to ask us questions and also interact more easily with each other. So please feel free to unmute yourselves if you have any questions after any of the presentations that we have today, or also chat, input your questions, type them into the chat as well. I also wanted to remind you that this meeting is being recorded. So now I would like to hand over to Lisa, also part of the partnerships team, who will be telling us how we can all support the crisis response in the Ukraine.
Thank you, Carola. I think before we can move forward with today's use cases and discussions, I would like us to take just a moment to reflect on the current war situation in the Ukraine. We have seen in the last few weeks that chat's ability to provide trustworthy and potential life-saving information has never been more needed. And at TURN, it's our mission to support organizations during times of crisis like this. We had the immense privilege to work with the State Emergency Services of Ukraine and WhatsApp to build a helpline where we provide key updates, news information, security information, instructions on shelter, and links to official information. We ask that you share this with your friends and family in Ukraine. And if you are supporting people or wanting to support people in the Ukraine, please feel free to reach out to us to see how we can help you. I think more than ever, all hands on deck is required. So if you want to know more about the service, you can click on the link that we will share. You can also scan the QR code. And if you want to know more how we built it and put it together, feel free to reach out to anyone at us at the team at TURN. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce Piyusha Ayari from ICAL to take us through her use case. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, so I would just like to start off by giving a brief introduction about the organization where I come from. So ICAL is a field action project of Tata Institute of Social Sciences. Tata Institute of Social Sciences is an educational institute that is based in Mumbai, which offers different courses. And this has always been known to be a pioneer in sort of working on developing solutions for different social issues. And ICAL has been one such mental health project that has been taken in this similar direction. ICAL was started in the year 2012 as a helpline service to provide call and email-based services to people throughout the country, irrespective of where they are living and in different languages. One of the key things of this service is that it's completely confidential and anonymous. Being a telephone and email-based service, there is a lot of confidentiality and anonymity involved. There are trained professionals who are working on this helpline service, and it is a free of cost service which is open for community irrespective of where they live. And we address over 20 plus issues, including crisis situations or non-crisis situations. And our partnership with TURN for this particular chatbot has been to develop some resources for mental health and for people to access these resources very easily. As you all might be aware, WhatsApp is a very readily used medium here in India for chatting, for calling, etc. And a lot of our clients who do reach out to us, they sort of, we felt the need to have some resourcing for them after the sessions, because being a community service, it is not possible for us to sort of cater or answer to all the calls that or emails that land to us. And I think this chatbot has just helped our counselors to pass on the resource whenever required and whenever the sessions are not, happening. So this is what was the problem, and we were really looking for a platform where we could develop resources that are easily accessible, and a turn in WhatsApp sort of enabled us to do that. So on this chatbot platform, there are different self-help resources on crisis situations such as self-harm and suicide. So there are small messages, key messages that we have tried to develop as to what one can do to keep themselves safe. What exactly is the conceptualization of self-harm and how one can keep themselves safe. We've also included certain visuals or guided meditations in the form of audio notes to help people whenever they are going through distress. And I think the best thing that I found about this particular chatbot is that how it is able to detect words. It was a great challenge for me to sort of develop that vocabulary or to develop keywords that might indicate vulnerability. And of course, I have added a few keywords on on the Turn platform that the bot detects and then sends messages. Say for example, I'm looking for help, or I'm feeling vulnerable, or I'm feeling suicidal. And the list is nevertheless, this list is still not exhaustive. Like, I still find myself sort of going back and reflecting what are some of the common terms that people use in different languages to indicate that they are feeling vulnerable, and how is it that the bot can sort of respond to this. And while I was developing this bot, one of my major challenges was that I am not from a technology background. I'm a psychologist by profession, and I was a little concerned and nervous about developing this myself, because I was good at developing the resource part of it, but I didn't really know how to go about implementing it. But I think it was the UI and the UX of the Turn platform is such that it's very easy for users like me to access it without really having a lot of knowledge about how the technical thing works. And I think there has been incredible support and assistance from Manish and Indrani in helping me set this up. So I think this was a challenge that I could very easily overcome using this platform. Another challenge that I have observed about this service is that so currently we are only restricted to providing resources, self-help resources to people who access this bot. However, because and we would sort of really like to explore a therapeutic modality over a chat medium. We currently only offer it over calls and emails, but that has been a challenge for us, because over WhatsApp, as you might be aware, for a therapy session to go about, there are certain limitations and boundaries that come into picture. And using a platform like WhatsApp for therapeutic assistance may not, we may not be able to fit with those boundaries and those limitations of a therapeutic setup. So that is one limitation that we have observed. A lot of these resources have been developed in English at present, but there are many users in our country who prefer to have these resources in their own regional language. So I think, one of the next steps for us would be to develop linguistic capacity of this bot so that more users can access these resources even in their own regional language. So this is a brief demo of what our services look like on the chat platform. So as you can see, we have tried to divide these issues into different categories. And this is the code and details to access these services.
Thank you very much, Piyusha, for your presentation. That was very insightful. I would like to ask the audience if there are any questions for Piyusha about the service she's running. So I see a question coming up.
We have the service activated for more than 6 months now, and we have a total of 1,381 approximately users and more than 13,000 messages that we have engaged with. The channels used to promote this service were our social media platforms, definitely. And also, because we have a very heavy inflow of calls and emails in general on our helpline, our counselors tend to pass on these resources over calls or emails itself. So users can just sort of, go back and access these resources whenever it is required. So I hope that helps answer your question. You're welcome.
Yeah, I think it did. Thank you for that detail, Piyusha. Any other questions from the audience?
Carola, I see Liliana has her hand raised. Lilian, do you want to unmute?
Yes, thank you. Hi, thank you so much, Piyusha, for the presentation. It's really exciting to hear what you've done. I actually have a lot of questions, but I'll start with one, which is, have you created any template messages that allow you to do outbound messaging through this tool? I'm not sure if you're familiar with those, but I've experienced it can be a little challenging to get template messages approved, and I'm wondering how you navigated that and thought about the messages that you send within the mental health context.
Okay, so I think you're talking about the templates or the messages that we send from our end. Okay, so we haven't really, so a part of the resources, we haven't really sort of engaged with our users in terms of sending any outbound messages. We have only restricted it to having it a resource-based platform as of now.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks for that, Liliana. Any other questions? So, I see one. Did you use?
We did not use any ads on a social media. We just used it to publicize it over our own platforms, and of course, because we are associated with TIS, which is an educational institute and has a lot of reach and following, they had also sort of supported us in circulating about this chatbot. So that is how our strategy was.
I'm really happy to ask more questions if I can. Since you are working with TIS and this is an educational institution, I'm curious how you're thinking about the financial sustainability of the program and making this available to people long term. Have you thought about your model there?
So we are a funded organization. We do have funds for the different projects that we undertake. And I just would like to know if you're specifically talking about the bot service.
I'm curious in general, because you mentioned you've been running since 2012. So you have a long history. Where I'm coming at this from is I'm really curious how digital mental health interventions are funded and sustained over the long term.
So definitely it has been a challenge. It had been a challenge for us initially, but over time we have found a funder who has been very kind enough to fund a part of at least our helpline services for over 5 years now. And all the expenses under the helpline have been undertaken by this funder in India. They are Mariwala Health Initiative, MHI. They are an organization which is based in India, and they sort of fund many mental health initiatives in India. So yes, I think we've been really grateful to them for the consistent funding throughout these years.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome.
I see another question in the chat, Fuchsia. And what questions are asked on WhatsApp compared to other channels? And if you see a difference between the questions on WhatsApp versus the other channels.
Yeah, so I mean, of course, usually people do ask if there are sessions available on the WhatsApp medium, and that's one of the most commonly asked questions, because at the start of it they don't realize that maybe this is a bot operated service. But apart from that, there are people also sort of explore the bot. They just try to type out different numbers, and or maybe one of the most commonly used sentences also, that I need help, or I need some support, and I need some guidance, or I'm feeling overwhelmed, or I'm feeling sad, I'm feeling vulnerable. So these are sentences that are typically used on the chat, and these are definitely different from the kind of questions or the kind of conversations that happen over our other modalities. And because this is so easily accessible, I think people just there are many different kinds of people, and some of them are just sort of trying to explore what this is all about. But I have also observed that there are users who come back and use the chat service over and over again. And particularly, I've also observed that those guided meditations that we have set on the chat, in the form of audio notes, are things that people find very helpful. And in general, our suicide and self-harm section seems to be the most used one.
I was just going to ask you a follow-up question on that. Like, what was the content that users engaged the most with, or were the services that they were asking for the most?
Yes, so it's usually to know more about the services, and then suicide and self-harm, and these meditations, guided meditations, they find them to be very useful.
Okay, thanks. Are there any more questions? I have one question.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. No, go ahead, Liliana, please.
I'm so sorry. I was wondering, since you mentioned that the chatbots are currently available in English, and you think a next step would be to translate to other regional languages, I'm curious, beyond just the translation of the language, whether there's any amount of content adaptation or localization that you'll need to do, particularly if you're moving from maybe a more affluent urban population who would understand English and use WhatsApp, to a more rural, possibly less literate population.
Yes, yes, definitely. So ICOL has worked with a lot of these, communities in the past, and we have had experience of translating mental health content that is easily readable, or easily understandable in people's colloquial languages. So I think yes, but one of the challenges is going to be to develop something, which someone cannot possibly, for example, if someone cannot read, they're not literate, they cannot read. So posting it as a message is something that we might not consider. Then having it in the form of, maybe a video or maybe an audio will be something that will be more useful.
Yeah, that definitely resonates. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any more questions? What I was going to ask you, Piyusha, is how do you address issues about confidentiality on the services that you offer? Because this is obviously quite important,
Yeah.
especially with mental health issues. Yeah.
So are you asking with specific to the chatbot or just in general?
Maybe the chatbot, and then if you want to expand further, then that's fine as well.
So the chatbot is currently not accessed by a lot of people in the team. So we have different verticals and there are different counselors that work with us. The chatbot is presently not accessed by more than 2 people at the same time, so as to sort of maintain that information to a limited number of people. Apart from that, moving beyond the services, I think we have rigorous policies of documentation and how that documentation software is sort of secure and not accessed by anyone, a part of the team of counselors. So along with the team of counselors, we also have other people working with us, but nobody a part of the counselors have access to the software, or for that matter, access to the chatbot itself. And of course, all of these softwares are password protected, and nobody really in the organization knows it apart from a few key people that we have identified. And of course, when it comes to issues related to suicide or self-harm, we have certain protocols that are in place, even if we do want to breach the confidentiality in case the client is maybe feeling vulnerable or feeling unsafe. So we do have a process in place before we do, before we give out any information to him.
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. All right. Well, are there any last questions for Piyusha? Thank you very much, Piyusha, for answering all of these very interesting questions.
Carol, there's another final question in the chat window. Piyusha, it's about how do you manage disclosures of suicidal ideation, and what's the protocol for that? Are you monitoring those messages? How does moderation work? And are you managing that in shifts? Is it 24/7? A lot of follow-up questions there.
Okay, so as of now, it's not a 24/7 service. About the disclosures to suicide, we try and redirect them to our call services, because a chat platform limits us in a sense to be able to help that person. So if there are disclosures to suicide, we try to get them on a call with the counselor by setting, by accommodating an appointment so that they can get immediate help. Also, we do place a lot of emphasis on clients reaching out to us, and we not placing the outbound calls or messages, because we do not really have their consent to call them and speak to them. So we sort of encourage them to reach out to us, and we provide them with the details and the appointment time, etc. And usually people do shift to a call-based platform where they're easily able to access help.
Yeah, that's very sensible. Yeah, that makes sense. All right. Well, thank you very much again, Piyusha, for presenting your use case and the service that you're currently running. Congrats on the impact achieved so far. I would like to now hand it over to Indrani, also part of the partnerships team, to introduce our new community members.
Thank you, Carola. So in this section of the town hall, we welcome our newest community members, and we share some information about each of them and also their use case for their chat service. First up, we have World Bank Embed, the Mind, Behavior and Development Unit, also known as Embed of the World Bank. And what they are doing with the WhatsApp chat service is trying to see how they can apply behavioral science. Exciting use case, and we really look forward to what they do with the chat service. On the next one we have is 60 Decibels, is a tech-enabled impact measurement company, and they want to use Turn.io to basically collect through WhatsApp from beneficiaries of social enterprises in LATAM. The data that they collect will be used to provide customer insights, identify potential panel participants, obtain feedback on phone surveys, and amongst others. Samaritans of Singapore is dedicated to providing confidential emotional support to individuals facing a crisis, thinking about or affected by suicide. And they will, the organization will be using the WhatsApp chat service as an extension of their hotline, and to share resources on crisis support, specialist counseling, and local outreach to suicide survivors. The next organization is School Health Annual Report Program, or SHARP, and they're a non-government organization that run scientifically planned health programs for school children, professionally managed under the guidance of eminent medical experts, educationists, psychologists, and nutrition specialists who have a vision of promoting healthcare of children throughout developing countries. Now, this nonprofit organization is going to use the WhatsApp line to increase awareness on health issues in schools and student and teacher communities. And then we have One Future Collective, and it's a feminist youth-led not-for-profit organization that aims to nurture kindness in people, communities, and organizations. Their WhatsApp line will be used primarily to share information about their organization and services, and they're also looking to use the platform to promote various events and campaigns they run during the year. Over to you, Kanya, to take us through the rest.
Thank you very much, Indrani, and welcome to everyone once again. To continue our new community members, we have FHI 360, which is a global development organization with a rigorous evidence-based approach towards improving lives in everlasting ways. They have developed an application called QuickRes, which allows any member of the public to easily make reservations for health services using a smartphone, tablet, or a laptop. Their WhatsApp service line will be a way to add WhatsApp as a channel to manage appointments and reservations for health services. We also have Instituto Melhores Diaz, which is an organization promoting healthy development of children through health education, training, and articulating local networks in Brazil. We also have some new community members in EMEA, One-to-One Youth, which is an organization based out in Kenya, which was founded in 2006 and provides comprehensive HIV, gender-based violence, sexual reproductive health, and mental health support, and linkage to other services for adolescents and young people aged between 10 and 24 years. We also have Kiredi, which is a South African Department of Health initiative, which is run by an organization called I Support Creative Business. They're aimed at the youth and addressing vaccine hesitancy. The platform consists of doctors who engage the youth on reasons why vaccination is important, whilst also debunking the myths around vaccination in a language that the youth can understand. They're also looking at utilizing the platform to run competitions and incentives to drive more youth to get vaccinated. Now, what's interesting about the services that they were launched actually on the 18th of February And between that time and now, they've already exceeded 27,000 active users on the platform. And lastly, we have Olicom Education, which is an organization that focuses on foundational math skills for grades 7, 8, and 9. They used a multi-year approach to build core foundational skills whilst gradually deepening the conceptual understanding over time. They aim to be the go-to math resource for teachers, tutors, students, schools, and NGOs in South Africa. We'd like to welcome all these new partners and community members, and we're excited to have you on board, and we look forward to helping you and supporting you make more impact. Now over to you, Pippa, for our product updates.
Thanks, Kanya. Hi, everyone. So today I've got 3 main product updates. And the first one I'm really excited to share, but not because it's a big thing, but because it's a lot of small things. So I've had the incredible privilege over the last couple of weeks to be supporting our Ukrainian crisis response team. And we've loaded a lot of really important content. But as you guys know, in times of crisis, but other times as well, the quicker you can load content, the quicker you can get it out to your beneficiaries, the better. And so we've made a whole lot of small changes to make it easier and more efficient to load buttons and to set up content with buttons, as we've been doing a lot of that over the last little while. So not only are we now giving you a search bar so you can find the right button, we're listing them by the most recent button you've created, so it's easy to find. On the actual button message itself, when you're creating a button, you can now reorder the buttons. A little thing that actually goes a long way in not having to set up automations. Again, remembering your language selection. And we've also added a lot more detail onto the automations page for buttons in terms of showing you what the actual button trigger is. So it's easy to scan down and find your automations if you've got a lot of them. So as I said, a lot of small little things, but making a big difference in trying to increase efficiency in terms of loading button content. And I hope all of you are getting the hang of starting to introduce buttons into your content if you haven't already. We're trying to make this easier and easier, and we'll continue to do so going forward. The next thing I'm really excited to talk about is around the security enhancements we've made over the last little while. Now, some of these won't touch all of you on this call, but I think it's important for you to know about the possibilities and the additional security controls that can be in place if you have a private cloud, but also the work that we're doing as a team on the Turn side to make sure that we have greater and greater security measures in place. So all of our team members who have access to any database it's now being enforced by a physical key. That just creates a much smaller surface area for attacks in terms of understanding that we have to re-authenticate as well as with the fingerprint as people are accessing underlying databases. That makes it a lot more safe and secure for everyone and all the data that sits on our systems. And then secondly, if you have a private cloud, we're now able to restrict the access to that private cloud. So when you log into Turn on the UI as a private cloud customer, we can now restrict that login and that access to that page to only specific people that have logged in. So for example, if I have access to a private cloud, I'll be able to see the Turn UI and I'll be able to log in with it. If anyone else tries to log in, they will have zero access. It's basically not open to the internet. I won't be able to even access the page. And so all these things, if you're a private cloud customer and you're wanting to add these extra kind of security levels, these things come into play a lot when you have a team that is maybe moving around and doesn't have stable IP addresses, because that's another way we can limit people's access to to clouds. But basically, this gives anyone with a private cloud a lot more restrictions on who they can and can't access that service. And so I hope that made sense, me trying to explain complex security things. But next up, I just want to say that, as you all know, conversation billing came into place on the 1st of February. Lucky for most of you who have been able to apply through our conversation fee waiver program, will not be so worried about this, but we are updating the billing pages within Turn to now reflect conversations. So even if you on a fee waiver, but even if you're not, you'll be able to soon see how many conversations are you using and what that essentially would cost if you were paying for it, as well as seeing how many free conversations you still have left in your allowance if you have that free allowance. So very excited about that coming, and we'll let you know as soon as that launches. And that is me. I'm going to hand over to our wonderful Manish to share community.
Thanks, Pippa. Okay, as you know that our chat for Impact Forum is live and active. There are some interesting posts in the forum. I would like to highlight a few of those posts. The first one is from Reach 52 team on Facebook ads. If anyone of you are using Facebook ads to share about your WhatsApp line, it would be great if you could support and answer Reach 52 team in our forum. Also, we have some interesting questions from Maharishi team around using emojis in buttons. If you are planning to do it, feel free to read that post. And they have also posted a few questions on how can clients share their WhatsApp line with other people in their network. You can check out the comments, and if you have more ideas on those questions, feel free to post them as well. Lastly, I would like to thank iCall team from TIS for publishing their use case in our forum. Do check it out. It's a great use case. And next slide, please. You know that you can reach out to us using our dedicated WhatsApp support line. And I also hope to see your post, questions, and use cases in our forum. And with that, I conclude today's town hall. Bye-bye and take care, everyone.
Thanks, Manish. We'll pull onto the slide now, just the information for the Ukraine support line, so that if you've missed it in the beginning of the session, you will be able to access it.